Catholic Moments, episode 145, All Things Guy.
Catholic Moments is sponsored by CatholicMatch.com, the leading Catholic singles community. Being single can be a challenge. Catholic Match helps make it a little easier. To get started today, visit CatholicMatch.com/Lisa.
Finding joy in the journey and hope in the heaven yet to come.
Hello and welcome to Catholic Moments. And now, here's your host and my mom, Lisa Hendy.
Well, hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Catholic Moments, the show from CatholicMom.com, where we talk about all things faith, family, and fun from a Catholic perspective. And this week's perspective is coming to you high atop the 19th floor, overlooking a beautiful mountain view here in Las Vegas, where I've been celebrating my husband's birthday with him the last couple days. Well, he hasn't really been celebrating because he's here speaking at a conference, but I've been taking advantage of some quiet time to get caught up on some work for the last few days, and I'm happy to record this podcast from my king-size bed / podcast studio here in Las Vegas. And we've got a great show for you today. I'm really happy to share with you my conversation with Teresa, Tomeo, and Cheryl, Dickow of the great All Things Guy book series, and to let you know a little bit more about that terrific project that they recently released. And of course, we've got all of our cast of regulars, Deacon Tom Fox, Miss Avery, fresh from her confirmation celebration, and the wonderful and talented and beautiful Sarah Reinhardt. And I'm going to share some news with you about Sarah, too, maybe in case you haven't heard it yet. But before then, I have to share with you the big news of this week, and that's that registration is now open for this year's Catholic New Media Celebration. You've heard me talk about this in years past. It's the great chance that we as an SQPN.com community have to get together and celebrate all things Catholic New Media. And this year's celebration promises to be bigger and better than ever. So let's hear a little bit about this Catholic New Media Celebration.
The Catholic New Media Celebration is coming to Boston, Saturday, August 7th. Registration is open now with early bird pricing till June 30th. Registration includes a day-long conference at the Pastoral Center in the Archdiocese of Boston, plus a meet-and-greet reception the night before. Join SQPN and friends for an exciting event that will not only educate you about Catholic New Media, but it will inspire you as well.
Captain Jeff here, your Catholic pilot. Are you interested in learning more about blogging or podcasting, or perhaps hang out with some of your friends in the SQPN community? Well, Boston's a place. Beantown. Why is it called Beantown?
Hi, everyone. This is Lisa Hendy from the Catholic Moments podcast and CatholicMom.com, doing a shout out to all my fellow SQPN.com groupies. Hope to see you this year at the Catholic New Media Celebration.
For details, go to celebration.sqpn.com.
It's not just a conference. It's a celebration.
Okay, what are you waiting for? Get over there to celebration.sqpn.com and get registered for this year's celebration. It's going to be so much fun. I'm actually going to be in Philadelphia for a few days before this at another conference. So it's turning out that I'm going to be back in the East Coast quite a lot in the month of August. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, head over to celebration.sqpn.com and get registered for this year's show. And now, without any further ado, let's jump into this week's podcast with a message from everyone's favorite online deacon, Deacon Tom Fox.
As we approach the end of the year of the priest, I'd like to do another deacon moment on the subject of priests. And the title of this little reflection is The Perfect Priest for You. Ah, yes, the perfect priest. He preaches exactly 15 minutes. He condemns sins but never upsets anyone. He works from 8 a.m. until midnight and is also a janitor. He makes $50 a week, wears good clothes, buys good books, drives a good car, and gives about $50 weekly to the poor. He's 28 years old and has preached for 30 years. He has a burning desire to work with teenagers and spends all of his time with senior citizens. The perfect priest smiles all the time with a straight face because he has a sense of humor that keeps him seriously dedicated to his work. He makes 15 calls daily on parish families, shut-ins, and the hospitalized, and is always in his office when needed. And if you find yourself frustrated that your priest does not measure up, simply send a letter to 6 other churches that are tired of their priest too, then bundle up your priest and send him to the church on the top of your list. In 1 week, you will receive 1,643 priests, and one of them will be perfect. Have faith in this procedure. You might just want to know that one parish broke the chain and got its old priest back in less than 3 weeks. I share this with you during the week which commemorates St. Louis de Montfort. Did you know that the saint, now famous for his devotion to Mary and his fiery homilies, ran into trouble and was forbidden by a bishop to preach in his diocese? Did you know that de Montfort was involved in a reorganization of a hospital staff, and this caused such resentment that he had to resign? The perfect priest is the high priest, Jesus Christ. Your priest is perfect because he is where God wants him to be at this time. We may have trouble accepting that, or not, but God is large and in charge. Thank you, Jesus, our eternal high priest. Thank you for all human priests, the good, the bad, and the one in my parish. This is Deacon Tom. Blessings.
Hey, Deacon Tom, I love that formula for the perfect priest. And you know what your comments remind me is just that it's a great reminder to treasure our priests as they are, the in persona Christi, the people who lead us to the Eucharist in our own faith communities, and maybe to lessen our expectations of them being absolutely perfect and recognizing the blessing that they are just in the way that they are. But if there were a formula for a perfect deacon, I think you'd be it. So thanks to Deacon Tom, and you can visit him every day of the week over at www.deacontomonline.com. And don't forget to subscribe to his fabulous Catholic Vitamins podcast, where Deacon Tom and his lovely wife Dee inspire us every week with great Catholic nutrition, food for the journey. So thanks to Deacon Tom. And speaking of things that are inspirational and perfect, here's Miss Avery, fresh from this week's confirmation celebration, with her teen moment. Here's Avery.
Hi, this is Avery from the Live WTL podcast, bringing you this week's teen moment. Okay, well, I hope everybody is having a great week. I know that I am. Last weekend was especially exciting because I finally made my confirmation. It was a really great and special weekend. I'm really excited and happy to be confirmed. I've been praying and preparing and getting ready for this for like 2 years. Our diocese, we do classes for 7th and 8th grade until you're finally confirmed in the end of 8th grade. So it's been a long process. It's been a great and just phenomenal process, and I'm really, really happy and excited to be confirmed and finally a full member of the Catholic Church through the sacrament of confirmation. So it was just an absolutely beautiful ceremony and a wonderful weekend. And actually, I have to admit, I was actually not really looking forward to this crazy weekend because it basically, May is like the worst time for anything to be on the weekends because there's our school gets out in just a couple weeks and we have all of our exams to not look forward to, but to have all of the exam review, all of just the crazy busy everything going on, tournaments and games and everything coming up, and we just kind of have to make it through these last couple of weeks until summer. But this weekend was just great because it was a great time to relax, to see the family, to slow down and smell the roses, which actually we had just lovely weather with all of our thunderstorms and tornado warnings and stuff, but we didn't really get to smell the roses, but we did get to play a bunch of cards and stay inside and have a nice time, seeing the relatives and everything. And, the sacrament of confirmation was really the focus of the weekend, but it was also great to have a lot of family time because we have a really big family, a lot of extended family, and it's hard to really ever get to see one another except on like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and sometimes we get to see everybody. But other than that, we don't really get to see everything and see everybody. And the same thing can really go with Jesus. Sometimes we can take our relationship that we have with God a little bit for granted. We can just go to Him only when we're in struggle, only when we're in strife, and not always in our good times. And, we have these crazy busy times, and sometimes we think, oh, we're just so busy, we don't have time for God or whatever. We make up all these silly excuses in our head, and it's really those times that we can go to Him in the good, in the bad, in the in-between, in the just boring and monotonous times in our life, and we can relax, we can find joy, and we can embrace our relationship with Christ, and through Christ, we find peace. And through God, we find that peace that we can use to embrace our crazy lives. And as Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And through Christ, we can do everything, including embracing our crazy lives and using them to glorify God. So with something to think about this week, I'm Avery, and this was your Teen Moment.
I think I speak for everyone when I say thank you to Avery for the constant inspiration that you provide us every week. And also, happy confirmation, sweetie. We're so proud of you. And I know that you inspire and uplift so many every week with your podcast over at www.livewtl.com. And I think that your bishop may not realize when he confirmed you what a wonderful spokesperson for the faith you are, but keep up the good work that you're doing, Avery, and just congratulations and many blessings. I can't wait to see what lies ahead for little Avery, and we'll be able to say that we remembered her back when she got her start. So great job, Avery. We continue our prayers for you through your time of finishing out the 8th grade and entering into high school. Can't wait to see what lies ahead for you. And now let's jump into this week's podcast interview about all things Guy.
Today on Catholic Moments, we welcome two very special guests to the podcast. Teresa Tomeo is an award-winning veteran journalist and a best-selling Catholic author and speaker. Her radio program is produced by Ave Maria and is carried by EWTN, and that, of course, is called Catholic Connections. And most recently, Teresa's All Things Girl book series has been made into a 13-part television program for EWTN Global Catholic Television. And our second guest today is Cheryl Dickow, a Catholic author and a speaker who founded Bezalel Books in 2007. And Bezalel is a Catholic publishing company which produces tremendously high-quality Catholic books for children and women and classrooms and all kinds of great books. Cheryl holds a master's degree in education and is the mother of 3 fine young men. And I welcome both of you to the show today, and I'm so thrilled to have this time with you. Teresa, let's start off right with you today. We're here to talk about this wonderful All Things Guy project that you and Cheryl have recently put out. And why don't you give us an overview of the book and tell us a little bit more about how it came to be and what folks will find in All Things Guy.
Well, thanks, Lisa. I really appreciate the opportunity. This is such a funny story because we had no intention of writing a book for guys. It didn't even cross our minds. This actually came out of requests from folks who were attending my various speaking engagements across the country. The book's All Things Girl, the series, was very popular, and we had parents come be saying, we love the All Things Girls books, but what about something for my sons? And talking to Cheryl, we were laughing because we were so exhausted after reading all these books. We're like, as Cheryl says, we just needed a nap. We didn't have any intention of writing another book, but we talked about it. And, between the 3 co-authors, Cheryl, Molly, and Monica, they have 9 sons. And I thought, well, with their experience as moms, raising boys, and then myself with all the information I have about media influence and the impact it has on young men, which is huge in terms of violent media in particular and aggressive behavior in young guys, I thought, well, that could be a really good chapter, and I could do something similar to what I've done in the All Things Girls books on Take It From Teresa and talk to the young guys about the impact of the media. And so we just decided, okay, let's do this, and thanks be to God, it's going really well. It's been extremely well received. Of course, we haven't had quite as much publicity as we have on the All Things Girl series because we have the EWTN program that's running, but we're hoping that this will also pick up just as much, if not more, steam.
And I know that with this book, you made a conscious decision to do a book rather than a series. Maybe Cheryl, you can tell us about why that particular decision and what the book actually looks like when people pick it up.
Well, like Teresa just shared, we really kind of agonized over really taking on the project. So there was a lot of prayer, a lot of discernment. And once we came to the point where enough people had requested it of Teresa, she'd send another email. Oh, people are still asking, what about a boys' book? So once we finally came to that conclusion that, okay, the Holy Spirit was saying, this is something I'll give you the strength and the time to do, we then kind of went back into that whole praying and discerning, because we felt the boys' book needed to be like the girls' book in that it needs to talk to the kids in a very real and frank way, very faithful to the church, very faithful to the magisterium. But we knew it couldn't be like the girls' book, which is a series of 5. It's all color graphics. It's just girly. We had a lot of fun, I had a lot of fun doing all the formatting and whatnot for that. So we thought, okay, well, with boys you have to be careful. I don't even have daughters, so I only have sons, so I'm very familiar with, how I didn't want boys rolling their eyes and all kinds of stuff. So, we just decided, we started to, share some of our thoughts, and the decision ultimately was where the girls' book had 5, color books. The boys' book would be one bigger book. It's a little over 200 pages, where the girls' books are anywhere from 40 to 60 pages each. That the boys' book would be black and white. We still have graphics in it. There's some really cool graphics in it. But it would be black and white, and it would be one book, and that would speak better to boys. And so the book itself, because it's bigger, it speaks to all the same topics. We have saints, we have stories in it, we have puzzles, we have a section, if you want to cook, if you want to be in the kitchen. So it's a real fun book. It's a very faith-filled book. But we thought one book, black and white, was the way to go for boys.
Teresa, you really have your pulse on what's happening out there in the world, not only in media, but just our church in general. Now, this age range, this 9 to 13-year-old age range, is so critical. And I know in my home, I live with a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old, but it seems to me that with both of them, that junior high age, I think I was almost surprised when my first son started to enter puberty at the emotions and, the reaction physically, but especially emotionally that he had at that point. I think we expect that of girls, but not necessarily of boys. So speak to that particular age and how can we reach them, and why is this so critical for the future of not only our church, but I think our society as well.
Well, I think our society and our families, and it's so important because the messages and I think the reason we're seeing so much emotion is the messages that young men and men of all ages are getting from the media is that they don't matter. That's, how the title came about, All Things Guy, A Guide to Becoming a Man That Matters, because radical feminism has a foothold in the culture and in the mass media, in pop culture, and there are a lot of women who have been very involved in Hollywood and producing some pretty negative messages about fatherhood and about men in general, about we don't really need men for anything but a sperm bank if we decide one day that we feel like we want to have a baby to add to our collection of things that we want to gather. And even if you watch something, a comedy such as, let's say Everybody Loves Raymond, that was pretty innocent in most cases. And even, Patricia Heaton, she's a great pro-life activist, and she's in Feminist for Life. And so the people on there were pretty wholesome people in terms of their own, involvement out there in the community. But at the same time, if you watch that show, and I look at it now when I see the reruns, it's so negative in terms of all the guys, Raymond, his dad, his brother, are all portrayed as jerks, and they don't need them. They can survive just fine without them, and the women are the ones who are running everything. And I just think that kids are seeing this message, and guys are trying to figure out who they are and why they should even matter anymore, because society is telling them we don't need you, and they've also emasculated men over and over again. So this has a great impact, in terms of the way guys are going to grow up with their own self-image, and also seeing their relationship to God. If God is our father, and they have a negative image of fatherhood, then that's going to affect their relationship with Christ. So there was a lot of thought that went into the title, and it's what we would cover in the book.
I really appreciated the tone of it too. And Cheryl, I found it very respectful that you guys managed to inform but not necessarily talk down to kids that age who can kind of, we call them tweens or whatever. They can be kind of branded as And I think somebody mentioned mom handing them a book and, them rolling their eyes at you
Right.
oh,
Right.
great, here's my mom with another book.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I love the conversational tone of this book, and I want our listeners to know when you hear the word, I heard 200 words and thought, okay, some boys that age are not going to, or 200 pages, excuse
right.
me. Some boys are not necessarily going to pick that up and stick with it, but I know that the graphic nature of the book and the way that it's laid out makes it very engaging. Tell us a little bit. You mentioned some of the chapters, but what some of your favorite parts of the book are, Cheryl?
Well, speaking back to the fact that it's 200 pages, like you said, that's we tried to make sure that the sections were, because I taught middle school for many, many years, had enough meat that they might be anywhere from 3 to 10 pages, but then there might be a puzzle or something. So it is a lot of information that I think is divided up well, and it as you said, speaks to kids where they're at. In fact, that's Dr. Ray Garendi endorsed the book, and he said that's exactly what he said. He said it speaks to kids where they're at without speaking down to them. But I think that my favorite part of the book is, I'm not sure that I can actually say that because I truly just love the book. I flipped through it.
The whole thing.
I do. I love it. I love that, just like what you said, that it's like conversations that I've had with my middle schoolers for all these years. Now, in particular, I do like the parts, we talk about body changes. So you were saying that boys have that emotional component, and like Teresa was saying, so, if you take that emotional component and then you look at the real world that they live in and the messages that they get. So I think that if I were to have to pick my ideal section, it would probably be that, speaking about what's happening to them in their life emotionally and physically, because I think it's really critical information for the kids to have, to sort through and to allow themselves to be grounded in Christ.
Well, I want to mention again that we're speaking with Teresa, Tomeo, and Cheryl Dickow of Bezalel Books and this great book, All Things Guy. And Teresa, would you just say a few words about, we've mentioned Dr. Ray as one of the endorsers, and I know that Bill Donahue is also an endorser for the book. What are people saying about the book when you're out there and meeting with families?
Well, we were just so excited. Both Cheryl and I were just thrilled when not only Dr. Ray endorsed it, but also Al Cresta, of course, of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN, and he has several sons, so that meant a lot. And Dr. Ray, being the brilliant psychologist that he is, and we have this ongoing we tease each other on the air all the time, but I really do admire him and his work, and it meant a lot for us to get his endorsement. But then also Tarek Saab, who's a really prominent speaker out there, not just in Catholic circles, but in secular circles as well, and is a young man who had a strong reversion to his life, is now married and has a baby, but he's still, he's young. He's, Cheryl, what is he, maybe 30, I think, if that,
right,
and for us, that's really young.
Long-time Catholic Moment podcast listeners will remember that we did an interview with him, and he's an amazing young man.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and so the variety of the endorsements meant a lot, because we had it from different age groups, and then we were just so geeked when Bill Donahue, and it was funny, I was doing an interview with Doug Keck on this, and someone thought I said Phil Donahue, and I had to correct this woman writes me this long email about how I shouldn't be encouraging people to support Phil Donahue, and I wrote back, I said, ma'am, it's Bill Donahue from the Catholic League. And she's like, oh, never mind. But anyway, Bill Donahue from the Catholic League, who's such a wonderful, outspoken advocate of all things Catholic, and I love him because he's got that Irish feistiness, and I compare it to my Italian feistiness. It just was so meaningful for him. He wrote me a personal note and then sent me the article that was in Catalyst magazine, which is their monthly newsletter that comes out, and he said every family who has sons should have a copy of this book. It's a little bit of a paraphrase, but I remember with Cheryl and I saw that, and we're like, oh, they said every Catholic family who has sons should have this book. So it was just it's been really meaningful for us to see the reaction to this, and I'm very excited about it, and I hope it continues to pick up steam, because young guys need this. And I also think, too, the thing that Cheryl and I have found is that a lot of men are reading this who are older, with their college kids. We had one young family send us a DVD. They did a whole series, like their own little mini TV program for their parish based on the book.
On the book, on
wow,
All Things Guy.
how incredible.
Seriously, Lisa, it is a riot. It is an absolute riot. In the in the whatever little video that they did, that like they have this, the kids are like between 14 and 17 years old.
Yeah.
So it was older boys that were reading the book, and like one guy would be like a real buffoon or whatever, and someone would walk up to him with the All Things Guy book, and they'd hit him over the head, and they'd say, "You need this book." I mean, we had so much fun watching this, and this was something that they were just inspired to do after reading it with their boys. It was a large homeschool group, so it has really been rewarding when you hear and see things like that and people share like that.
Awesome. And I know that with All Things Girl, you, the two of you were involved in this 13-part television series that you did with EWTN. And maybe, Teresa, you can tell us a little bit about that. I know we're not exactly talking about All Things Girl today, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about the series and how people can get a hold of watching that.
Yeah, we were so grateful. EWTN, it was actually Doug Keck's idea. I was down there doing an interview on All Things Girl, and after we were done, he said, "Have you ever thought of doing a series on this?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I just want to get some sleep." I didn't even think about it. Well, no, he said this would be a great series because he recognized, the visual impact of the books. And I really want to give Cheryl the lion's share of the credit for these books because I wrote the media segment, but it was Cheryl who took the majority of the writing, and she came up with the graphics, and she did the layout, and she just put her heart and soul into these books, and you can see it. And when she speaks about them, you can tell that this is really these are her babies. But the series, EWTN, has been so gracious, and we were down there in last November, and we taped the 13 parts in 1 week. And we were really impressed. Well, first of all, we love EWTN, of course, but also because they took these books to heart. And the producers and the editors and the graphics, people that were working behind the scenes in graphics, they brought the books to life on TV with the graphics and the artwork and the music and the colors and just the way they put the B-roll together, the footage. So it's on every Monday night. It's been on for about, Cheryl, it's been on for about 5 weeks now?
This is the fourth week now.
Yeah. And it's on 6 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays, and then it's re-aired on Friday mornings at 10:30 Eastern. And they also promote it quite a bit through the week. And if you go to their website, it's under the new series. If you go to EWTN.com, they have a special segment on their website under new series. And also on my homepage at TeresaTomeo.com, there's a link to the series that actually lists all the episodes. But it's just been a blast, and to see these books come to life on television was a whole different experience. So
Lisa, seriously, we were a riot on the set because, we'd show up, and the amount of time that they put into it. Now, remember, I have no daughters. I only have sons, so my house doesn't have all the frills and all that kind of stuff, right? So we'd show up on the set, and it'd be all pink and green and purple, and, oh, my gosh, they did, amazing things, and we'd all be like a bunch of 9-year-olds going, oh, look at this! It was just so incredibly wonderful of them, like Teresa says. They just truly took it to heart and just did, I'm going to start crying. It was just, it was really,
it's so amazing to see your dreams come to life like that. So I'm thrilled to be able to point our listeners to that as yet another resource of the great things coming out of Bezalel Books and from both of you. And I know, Teresa, that both of you are active in speaking on a broad variety of topics, especially now All Things Girl and All Things Guy. So how can folks get in touch with you if they'd like to bring you out to their parish or organization to?
Well, for both of us, we both have the websites, and I really want to encourage people to go to Cheryl's website because her books, and you know this, Lisa, but she doesn't get nearly the credit that she deserves. She has produced some amazing Catholic books, and Cheryl's going to she's on my show fairly regularly, but I'm going to start having her featured on more of a regular basis to talk about women in the Old Testament and women in the Bible, which that's an area of her expertise. And she has a new book out about Mary, which is phenomenal. It's all about the papal encyclicals on Mary, which is beautiful. So check out Bezalel Books, BEZALEL Books.com, and you can contact Cheryl. And Cheryl and I love to speak together, and we are a hoot and a half when we get together. So you got the Polish and the Italian going. At least we think we are. We have a good time. So you can contact Cheryl through Bezalel Books, and then me through TeresaTomeo.com. So, and plus we're really good friends. So if you contact Cheryl and you want to talk to me, Cheryl will put you in touch with me, and vice versa. So, yeah.
Well, fantastic. I just want to come have coffee with both of you guys and get in the same room.
We want to have coffee with you. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's been such a treat to spend time with both of you. Teresa, are there any final thoughts about All Things Guy or any encouragement that you can offer to parents out there who
I just want to, first of all, I want to thank you for your work. You are just a great sister in the Lord, and you've been very supportive of Cheryl and myself, and I can't thank you enough for that. And kudos to you for everything that you're doing and helping people deal with the social media, which is so important. And I want to encourage people to take advantage of the resources that are out there, like yourself and the wonderful work you do with your blogging for Catholic moms and your new book, which is like, I don't know, what have you sold, like 1 million copies so far? But seriously, your book is a great resource, and to know that there are resources out there for you, and don't feel so overwhelmed. And I don't want people to feel alone, because there are a lot more people who think the way we do, even if they're not coming from a faith basis. This is what I found out there, that people really want what is good and what is right, and they're searching. And so just take heart and know that, as I always say, God is still very large and very much in charge, and never lose heart and never lose hope. And there's great resources, EWTN.com, your website, my website. But take advantage of the resources, and always, 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 always turn to the church. The church and Jesus will never, ever forsake us, and just remember that.
Amen. Well, thank you to both of you. Again, our guests today have been Teresa Tomeo and Cheryl Dickow, and the book in question, All Things Guy. We'll have links to Bezalel Books and to teresatomeo.com for you in our show notes. And I want to thank both of you, and can't wait to see what's next from both of you. So have a wonderful day, and thanks.
Well, we'll let you know after we take our nap.
Awesome.
All right.
Have a great day, ladies.
God bless.
Well, what a treat to get to speak with Teresa Tomeo and Cheryl about All Things Guy. And we'll have links in the show notes for all the websites that they recommended. But if you have an adolescent young man in your life, I cannot recommend strongly enough that you get a hold of All Things Guy. And in the meantime, for moms of girls, be sure to check out the All Things Girls series, which is equally as fantastic, and now the basis for that great new EWTN show. So congrats to Teresa and Cheryl for all the good work, and as I said in the interview, I can't wait to see what comes next. And I thought it was really interesting that at one point Teresa used the words, God is large and in charge, which harkens back to what Deacon Tom had to say today. So good job, Teresa and Cheryl. Keep up the great work. And now, speaking of people who are large and in charge, let's hear from Mrs. Sarah Reinhardt, which actually, before we go into her segment, I think I'm going to talk about something real quickly. She's mentioned this over on her blog at snoringscholar.com, but Miss Sarah is soon to be the mom of a third young Catholic man or woman. So congratulations on your pregnancy, Sarah, and best wishes for your continued good health. I know that you've been feeling a little peaked for the last few months, and so I want to thank you for your continued dedication to sharing our Mary moments with us, and let you know that you are in the prayers of our entire listening audience. And if you guys want to send a little shout out to Sarah on congratulating on her on her pregnancy, we'll have some words on how to leave feedback soon. But here's Sarah with this week's Mary moment.
Hello, my name's Elizabeth.
And my name's Sarah Reinhardt.
It's time for Mary Moment.
I've been thinking a lot about sympathy. According to my dictionary, sympathy is defined as the feelings of pity and sorrow for someone else's misfortune. Another definition of it calls it an understanding between people, a common feeling. Our family has had a year filled with sympathetic wishes from many people. When our 38-year-old brother-in-law passed away unexpectedly in early January, I found myself in a vortex of pain that wasn't all mine. I noticed that the person at the very heart of the pain, the person who most needed our love and support, wanted to make sure that no one felt sorry for her. I was thinking about this when I was at her house recently. I had said something to her about something I wanted to do, and she said, "Well, that's fine, but don't do it because you feel sorry for me." My sister-in-law has been an inspiration for me this year in many, many ways. I look at her bearing the cross of her enormous grief, and I see Mary at the foot of the cross. And now I wonder if those other people felt sorry for Mary when she stood there at the foot of the cross. And I wonder if Mary minded. What is it that makes us not want people to feel sorry for us? Or maybe it's just me and my sister-in-law. I will accept people's help and sympathy, but conditionally, with my arms held out in front of me as though to protect me somehow, in case they should get too close to me and hurt me, or, God forbid, see me cry. Pope Benedict, in a homily on the Immaculate Conception in 2005, shared this thought: Mary stands before us as a sign of comfort, encouragement, and hope. She turns to us saying, "Commit yourself to God. Then you will see that it is precisely by doing so that your life will become broad and light, not boring, but filled with infinite surprises, for God's infinite goodness is never depleted." In this image of Mary, I realize that there's an error in my approach to receiving sympathy. Not only does she offer me comfort, but she also offers hope. Hope. In the face of immense tragedy, even one so great as to be unimaginable, she points to the open tomb. I love the thought of Mary pointing us to the infinite surprises in our lives, too. There she stands at the foot of the cross, facing sorrow in its largest form, and yet she made it to the tomb on Easter morning, too. She hadn't given up. What a surprise that must have been. She knew death wasn't the end of the story, but isn't it true that the experience of a thing is so much greater than the knowledge of it? Until next week, my friends, may Mary lead you on the adventure to her Son, and may that adventure make your life broad and light, filled with infinite surprises.
Oh my goodness, I just realized something really crazy. Did I actually say the words large and in charge about a pregnant woman? If you know Sarah Reinhardt and you've met her in person, you know that she is actually anything but large. She's so petite and sweet and tiny. I didn't mean to infer anything by calling you large and in charge, Sarah. But I do love you and I love your merry moments. And please, please, please go visit Sarah every day of the week over at www.snoringscholar.com. And this show has gone on long enough, so it's about time to say goodbye here from Las Vegas. Before I do that, though, I do want to invite your feedback. We love to hear from you. You can call me anytime at 206-339-9272. Drop an email to lisa@catholicmom.com or be my friend over on Facebook or Twitter, Lisa Hendy. Love to hook up with you over there in those various places and just find out what's going on with you in between each time that we meet here on the podcast. And since we've been talking about teens like Avery and all things Guy and the fact that I have 2 teens in my home, I thought I'd leave you this week with kind of a fun song. This is from Christian artist Chip Richter, and I think it's fun and I hope you enjoy it too. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next week on Catholic Moments. God bless. Bye-bye.
My dear, how can it be that you and I are here? The parents of teenagers now, doesn't that sound weird? Well, I know it's not a dream, 'cause our bathroom's never clean. But the only explanation we got, teenagers living here. Oh, my dear, I wonder why at night when I come home, of all the houses on the street, ours looks like a landing zone. Well, I know I sound uptight when I holler, turn out your lights. Well, the only explanation we got, teenage living here. Well, it wasn't that long ago we brought them all home from the hospital. Our babies have rockabye have become teenagers in the human Oh, my dear, this morning when I opened up our Frigidaire, I poured the milk on my Raisin Bran, but all I got was air. I know I shouldn't complain, would be late. But the line's been busy since 4 p.m. and now we've missed our date. Well, I know that sounds like an excuse, but before you cook my goose, for the only explanation we got teenagers living here. Well, it wasn't that long ago we brought 'em all home from the hospital. Our babies we rock and roll have become teenagers and break all that night. Oh, wow. Teenagers living here. Teenagers living here. Teenagers living here. Living right here. Oh, baby, whatever happened to our baby? Tell me, baby, whatever happened to our itty bitty tiny little
SQPN, leading the way in Catholic new media.